think there's a way in which people can share their faith successfully and effectively on those platforms? What would you suggest?
I think the best way to share your faith on those platforms, in fact the best way to use those platforms, full stop, is to try always to add value to someone else.
Yeah, great.
Never, I get, to be honest with you, quite annoyed with some youth leaders and church leaders, only because they're using these media to promote what's happening on Sunday. So you get all these photos of, you know, people with their hands raised in great stage sets. And Youth Alive was all about that, so I believe in that. But, you know, people think, well, so what? My club has music. You know, my football club has music. Come on, my kid's school has music. What's the big deal? We need to tell unique stories that add value to people who are reading them. And I think if Christians go out there just to tell, hey, I'm a Christian, yada, 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 I wouldn't even listen to that. But if someone says something that adds value to me and makes me improve my skill set, increases my life skills, then I think I'm learning from that, which, by the way, then brings them to the point where they give permission for me to say something every so often that is a promotion. People don't mind promotion as long as it comes in the context of a lot of value-adding material.
You touched on technology, and so I think we should go there. If I've got my phone here, when I'm preaching, I will look around on a Sunday and I'll see a lot of people on their phones, and they'll say to me they're taking notes, but no one takes notes like this. we all know what they're doing. So the second screen has become a massive part of life. Like even going to the cinema, even if you guys, I'm sure at home watching Netflix, you might be having your phone, texting at the same time. The second screen has become a massive part of our life. Do you think in church we should embrace the second screen experience by somehow having an app where you can be interactive throughout the service? Or is it something where we keep telling them, put your phone away, focus on God?
Harnessing technology is important because in the 60s, some of you might have heard of a famous communications expert, a guru, they used to call him, called Marshall McLuhan, who famously said, in the age of television, the medium is become the message. What he meant was that in the age of technology, the tools we use to communicate our ideas are just as important as the words we choose. So you might have a great idea, a great product, a great concept, but if the pipeline that you're sending that through is out of date, people will assume the idea is out of date. So we need to use as many modern texts as we can because we don't want people thinking the God we represent is redundant or out of date. Sometimes Christians push the pause button and they say, listen, we need to think about the future implications of present technologies. That's a good role for the church. But we're not anti-progress. What we're anti is progressivism, which is the worship of progress. The idea that all progress must be good, all change must be good. That's not true. We need to use the technology, we need to harness it for that reason. But we need to humanize it. People at the forefront of technology from all over the world are saying we need proximity as well as technology. We need to have high touch in the age of high tech.
Mal, you talked about identity just in that last question. How as leaders can we lead these millennials who are going through life unsure of identity?
I think probably millennials measure identity in three things. The first is narrative, which we mentioned a moment ago. Narrative, because they are a narrative generation and almost every form of information has some narrative attached as it comes to them. So when they go for a job, there's plenty of evidence now that they're not just thinking, how much will you pay me? Or how many paid vacation days will I get? They're thinking, how can this job give me a better story to tell about myself? How can your network of connections, the experiences you're giving me, help me tell a better story about who I am? So narrative is one. Altruism is another. 93% of American consumers now say that they would much rather buy from a company that believes in a cause they care about. And the number's even higher among millennials. And that's where fair trade coffee came from. Millennials saying, we want to know when we consume, we're also activists. We're not just consumers. This is an activist action here. We're wanting to know we're doing good for someone out there in Africa or China or somewhere else. So altruism's another one. And we can offer all three, by the way, as Christian leaders. And the third one is trust. Because millennials are a much more nurtured generation than either of the two that went before them. I know I'm speaking generally now, and there are exceptions to this, but they're much better parented than Generation X or Boomers were before them. And because of that, they put a premium on trust. They expect that if I'm given the right tools, I should be allowed to get on with the job and not be micromanaged all the time. That's why they're driving the search for a new ethic in society. It's the millennials driving that, because they put a premium on trust. And so they see their identity as, in part, about how much trust I'm being shown here. How much trust is my youth leader putting in me when he or she gives me something to do? That's a key factor in shaping my sense of identity.